Hi, I'm Marcus with the IndieMusicLab.com. So over the past few weeks, we've dissected and looked into different aspects of the 1975's indie pop sound. So in today's video, to wrap up this series on the 1975, we are going to take a step back and do a complete walkthrough of this song, this remake, I'm in Love With You, and I'm going to show you how to create an indie pop song like this from start to finish. So this is a one-stop shop of how to get a 1975 production. Let's jump right in. All right, let's not waste any time. I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right into this session, starting with step number one to get this type of song is you need an 80s chorusy electric guitar riff. So here is what that sounds like. So I'm gonna walk you through just very quickly, step by step. Now I do have a full video on just what I did with this electric guitar arrangement in this remake specifically, so I'll leave a link to that in the description. This will be more of a quick walkthrough of what we're doing here. So I have GTR tool rack here, here's without that, and then here's with it. That's where we're getting most of the tone, right? I started with a preset here, and then I made some adjustments. This is the RO, like runs, clean, wet preset or something like that. And then I think I made some slight adjustments to like the doubler and the chorus and whatnot. And then the next plugin in this chain is a compressor. It's just a little tube compressor here. Just kind of glue that sound together. The next is add some extra bite. Here's without it. This is just a stock distortion in Studio One. The next is tri-comp. Just with it. And this is just like a multi-band compressor, sort of, I think. I'm not sure what it does. Sometimes I just throw it against a track and see if it works, and in this case it did. The next one then after that is an EQ, which I wanted to make a big cut here because there was a low string frequency that accidentally was coming through there, and so I just made a notch out there, boosted up here in the high mids to make it fit better in the mix. And then, why are these muted, I wonder? Okay, I just didn't actually need them. So I have return tracks over here with a couple effects like a plate reverb and a slap delay and all of that, but it ended up not even really adding the value that I wanted. And so that just sounded fine to me. And then I'm panning this electric guitar track about 50 left. And then I'm not gonna get into the rest of this arrangement here with this electric guitar because I already talked about that in that specific video, which again, I will leave a link to that in the description below. But we just got a couple duplicated tracks, like a parallel track, which is like a slap delay-ish track. And then when the chorus comes in here, I have another parallel track that's really focusing in on the high end, like some saturation stuff. And then to wrap up this electric guitar part, we have this little thing on the right. It's just doing that. And again, GTR tool rack, very basic stuff, sending it to some slap delay there. And that's just on the right side, pan to the right. And then you put that electric guitar arrangement together, along with a couple power chords, very, very basic tracks here, pan left and right in the chorus, and here's what we have. So that's step one, get a nice 80s chorusy electric guitar. Sounds pretty good, right? Especially considering I'm just running this through a very basic GTR virtual amp sort of effect, and it sounds pretty good. Now, step two to get this 1975 style song is you want to layer in some double-tracked acoustic guitars. So we're staying in this guitar lane. We are really dialing in the guitars to start off this video. So I'm gonna leave the electric guitars on, and I'm gonna turn on the left and right acoustic, which sounds like this. Now, there's some compression on these. There's some saturation, I think, on the individual tracks. Like, these are compressed a bit more than I generally do my acoustic guitars, but that was sort of what I was hearing in the original. And so I just went ahead and kind of squashed them a little bit and made sure that they stayed very consistent in this mix. I also added some OTT with the depth at around 26%. and then I have the same thing on both tracks, and then I'm sending both of these acoustic guitar tracks to an acoustic guitar bus, and then here is where we are adding a few effects. So we got an EQ, just doing this, and then got some tri-comp here with some saturation and compression happening. And then the magical RC20 really helps warm it up and give it a nice analog warm feel to it. So it doesn't sound so thin and tinny, right? See, here's without it, here's with it. Really, really big difference. And then we got, to finalize it, some EQ to rule off those super highs because I wanted it to feel a little bit like it was blanketed there. And then, did I end up keeping this? Yeah, and then we have a little bit of a sidechain effect here with this Kickstart plugin that I guess thought, you know, the mix knob is all the way down at about 38%, so it's not doing much, but it just kind of helped give it that little bit of a ducking effect. See, that's what it would sound like if it was just by itself. But anyway, those are the double-tracked acoustic guitars. Obviously, in case you are not really familiar with this approach, this is not the same performance. These are two different takes. I recorded this take in on just one microphone, and then I panned that to the left. I record another take in and panned that to the right, bundled them, put them together, sent them through the same bus, and then put some extra processing on here like we just talked about. So that's step 2, add some double-tracked acoustic guitars. Coming in at step number 3, you want to add a straightforward drums and bass groove. So let's go ahead and just layer the drums. We'll start with the drums and then we'll add in the bass here in a second. Already bounced these to audio, and once we get to the keys and some of the other elements as we wrap up this video, I might go ahead and revert those back to the VSTs. That way we can see what's happening. But in this case, I don't think I need to because of how basic this is. So I've got 2 layers happening here. The first one here is a machine drums. Let me actually go ahead and just solo that so we can hear it. I mean, super basic beat, right? That's all that's happening. And I'm using Addictive Drums, and I'm using their machine pack, their Real Machines pack. And then I went ahead, duplicated the pattern, and then messed around until I found a drum sound, starting with a preset, and then I layered it. And then you put them together. And then let's add in this bass. Actually, before we add in this bass, let's real quick, let me walk you through the plugins on this drums bus. So I'm sending both of these drums to, oh, I just saw here that I added the plate reverb twice. Probably don't need that. Let me instead take this one off, and I'll leave this one on. Anyway, getting back to it. So we got the plate reverb there just to kind of add a bit of space, and this is the same plate reverb that the vocal is being sent to, which we'll talk about the vocal here in a minute. So here's without any of these plugins, right? Kind of dry, a little bit thin, but then we add a bit of sausage fattener with both the fatness and the color knobs activated. And then after that, good old RC20. After that, I just went ahead and added a little bit of this Waves one knob wetter plugin just to give it some space, even though we are already sending this to the plate reverb already. I just thought it sounded good to kind of give this song that extra space even on the drum bus. And sure, the kick drum then, you know, it means that the kick is getting reverb on it. I don't really care. It sounds great in the mix to me. And so that is what I did. And now let's go ahead and add in this bass guitar. I'm gonna go ahead now actually and revert this back to real-time audio because I want to be able to show you exactly what I did here. And here are the list of plugins. GTR amp, very basic stuff there. We got a sausage fattener plugin. And then some EQ, boosting the lows here and then boosting up here in the highs to that way we can actually hear it a little bit better. And then finally, some kickstart. kind of give it a little bit of that ducking effect, which I think just sounded cool for this song. So there you go. That is what we're doing with the bass, the drums. So now I'm going to go ahead and solo back in, bring back the acoustic guitars and the electric guitars. Oh, and I almost forgot about, there's one little percussion track here too. It's literally just me on the guitar, and I just wanted to throw in a random track just for kicks and giggles, and I thought it sounded cool just as it layered in track. So. All right, now in step number 4, we're gonna talk about the vocals. Before I do that though, I just wanna let you know that I have a gift for you. It's called my 7 Steps to a Killer Indie Song Guide. So if you're trying to make music like the 1975, Phoebe Bridgers, Tame Impala, Bon Iver, you name it, just this indie type of vibe, you're gonna love this free guide. So I'll leave a link in the description below. And again, I'll talk more about this at the end of the video. So let's go ahead, let's dive into step 4, which is, what is step 4? It is the 1975 vocal sound. So we already have everything else. I'm going to go ahead and bring that lead vocal into this mix, and here is what it sounds like. With you. Yeah, I'm in love with you. So let's go ahead and walk through this step by step. I'll turn off all the plugins and then turn them on one by one. Now I'm going to do this a lot more quickly. This is another part of this mix that I made a specific video on just the vocals. So just like the electric guitar one, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. But the first thing we have here is a bit of auto-tune. That's sort of an important thing, not only in pop, but whenever you're doing a 1975 style video, or song rather, you're probably going to want a little bit more auto-tune than you even might think. So it's a pretty tight auto-tune. And then we got a de-esser. And then we got an all-in-one sort of vocal plug-in here. And then got some EQ here because I didn't want too many of these highs. The thing about the 1975's vocal mix is they tend to cut away a lot in this range, and then there tends to be a lot more up here, and then perhaps down here, but this is the range where it can get you in trouble because the 1975's vocal sound is a bit, it isn't quite, it's present, but it's not harsh. It's like they've taken a step back from the mic and they're not like right up on the microphone and really, it's not that, right? It's more kind of spacey, and I don't know how to describe it, but I think you know what I'm talking about, or I hope you do. And one of the ways that you can get that is by EQing out, especially in this 2K, 3K range, and that's what we have here. So let me actually go ahead and solo, because I feel like you probably aren't able to hear very well everything that's going on here. So I'm going to solo the vocal just for a second. So then the next plugin is just a classic 1176 style compressor here. Just add some extra bite. Then I ran it through 3 different types of distortions and or saturation plugins, starting with red light distortion. Let me go one by one here. And this just helps warm it up. Saturation knob. And then RC20. With the only one of these that I have turned on here is the distortion. So I'm only focusing in on the saturation distorted part here in that phase with those 3 plugins. And then after that, adding some EQ. I wanted to boost the 220 range to kind of warm up that vocal, and then also boost up here in the 5K range, as well as a shelf boost of about a dB at the very top. And then finally, mix tool, which is just like for automation purposes with the volume, and then finally a de-esser at the end of the chain. With you. And then I'm sending these to a plate reverb. I'm in love with you. Which it's Valhalla Vintage Verb, just over 1 second. I started with the vocal plate preset, so these are the settings, pretty basic standard stuff. And then I wanted to customize the EQ curve of this. Now, do you notice again, it's 3-4K range here. I'm doing a cut, and it's on the reverb channel itself because we're using a return track here, right? And so I went ahead and EQ'd out that reverb so we get more of a sheen quality without the harshness.
I'm in love with you.
Don't forget to turn that back to 0. And that's the sound that we have there.
Yeah, I'm in love with you.
And then as you may have noticed here, that delay is being automated to turn off and on.
With you.
I basically turn it on at the end of the phrases.
I'm in love with you.
So that is a quarter note delay. It's starting with Valhalla delay here, pretty basic settings. I got the drive cranked on this, as you can see. So it's kind of a distorted delay sound. And then I took that delay signal and I ran it through little plate with the mix knob on this at about 60%. So this is a return track again. So Valhalla delay here obviously has 100% mix because that's where you have to start on return tracks. But then I'm taking that delayed signal and I'm running it through a bit of reverb here, as well as some OTT, which helps brighten up this delay reverbed signal over here. So
yeah, I'm in love with you.
it's a really cool sound, right? And then, let me see, I think we're sending it to a slap delay finally. Yeah, so that's what's happening there.
Yeah, I'm in love with you.
You've probably heard me talk about slapback delays before. Just classic, slightly offset left and right. In this case, I've started to fall in love with turning up the feedback a little bit for slap delay so you get a nice springing effect. So here's what it would sound like.
Yeah, I'm in love with you.
Right, it's that type of thing. Not quite as extreme, you know, let's dial this back to about 25%. I just think it sounds good to add that nice little springing effect at the end of it. And then, let's see, do we have anything else here? Just another EQ cut in this 2, 3, 4, 5K range on this delay channel itself. So that is sort of a common thread that I'm sure you've noticed here is I'm doing a lot of cutting in that 3, 4K range, especially on the reverbs and the delays and even on the lead vocal itself. So there you go. So now I'm gonna go ahead and bring everything else that we've already talked about, I'm gonna bring it back in and we'll see how it sounds.
It's simple and it goes like this. I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with you.
All right, and finally, when you've dialed in steps 1 through 4, what do you need to do at the end? You need to add some ear candy production. This is the icing on the cake, and when you're talking about cake, like, it's not a cake without the icing. I mean, come on, so you gotta have the icing. And so I'm just gonna walk you through the rest of the tracks, which is basically, that is what it is. It is ear candy icing tracks. Now, this might be my favorite little subtle track in this remake I did, is I just did some ad-libby stuff, and it sounds like this. Here's what it sounds like, listen. It's that type of thing. Listen to how that sounds layered in. Listen to what it sounds like without it. With it, I mean, it makes such a difference. Amazing stuff, right? So it's pretty dry. I just ran it through a little bit of compression, a little bit of short ambience reverb, and some EQ to really make it fit in the mix well. It just ruled off a bunch of the low end since you don't need it in this case for that type of background track, and then sent it to some slap delay, which we already talked about. It's the same slap delay on that return track. So that is one component of it. Let's see what else we have here with regards to ear candy tracks. We got a couple vocal doubles.
Yeah, I'm in love with you.
And that is for the chorus specifically, as well as this little accented line here. Right?
There's something in you, baby.
Really helps give that nice lift for this part. That's the nice ear candy there, right? And then, of course, we got these chants here doing this. So a lot of very shimmery reverb sounds there. So I got auto-tune on all of these four just to make sure the pitch is good and locked in. A little bit of compression just to balance the volume of each individual track. And then I sent all four of these to the chants bus right here. And then I ran it through JJP vocals. Let me actually go one by one real quick here. And then Valhalla vintage verb. and super focused on the high end. I rolled off a bunch of low end here, as you can see, and then some distortion just to kind of saturate that sound just a little bit. And then a little bit of EQ, which isn't doing really much at all. And let me open up this distortion track just in case you want to see what I did here. It's very standard stuff, not much. Mix is all the way down at 11%. So it's a very subtle effect, just a tiny bit of saturation added there. And so there's another example of some nice ear candy with the vocals there. And then what else do we have here? We got a little piano track. It's like a electric piano track. It's just tucked in the back of the mix. And then here, classic. This is just an Omnisphere track. Now I've bounced most of these to audio because it helps save my CPU, but it doesn't, I don't even think it's worth this, like giving you the preset, because I actually kind of don't want you to necessarily know this preset because that's not even that helpful. I picked this at random. It's not like I went and said, I have to have that preset. I just browsed through my analog style presets in Omnisphere until I found one that sounded good like this. And I just played basic chords and it sounds really good. And then what do we have here? This is just me messing around with the random sounds. Now let me actually put this back to the original instrument track in Omnisphere just so you can see what this preset is, because this is more of a specific sound that you might be interested if you use Omnisphere. So I'll open that up real quickly here, which this preset is RS09 chorus organ. Sounds like this. Just a really good sound, right? And I'm doing just a 1 and a 5. Just doing super, super basic performance on the keys, and it is the effects and the whatever is in this preset is really giving it that nice movement and that energy, and it sounds pretty dope. Now, I would say this is probably the most ear candy track in this entire mix. Listen to this. Oh, isn't that lovely? Yeah. It sounds amazing. And this, let me bounce this back to the Omnisphere track too so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. So here is the Omnisphere preset, the L-Fat Random Espionage, whatever. Now, what is really creating the movement and the sound is, of course, the arpeggiator. So whatever synth you have, whatever you're doing, you can even create this without having an automated arpeggiator. Obviously, it's easier if you have this plugin, but you can, add this into a MIDI piano roll as well and just kind of make it really, really fast and then loop that if you want. And it's very easy because all we're doing here is holding down a single chord. This is literally the one chord. It's the A major chord. I'm just holding it down, and the arpeggiator is doing all of the work. Now, one really, really cool thing about Omnisphere is you can lock the arpeggiator. So I started with a basic preset, and then I got the arpeggiator to sound like I wanted it to, and I dialed in some settings here, and then I locked that arpeggiator here, which allowed me to browse through any other presets and the arpeggiator would stay the same. So that is a beautiful little feature in Omnisphere that in case you aren't using that, if you use Omnisphere, you definitely want to take advantage of that when you are doing these arpeggiator types of tracks. So however you can get this sound, there are many ways of doing this. It's not like you have to have an Omnisphere to get this sound, but in this case, that is what I used, and this is what it sounds like. Just beautiful, right? Layer that in. So to wrap up the ear candy, what do we even have here? I'm not even sure what this is. Just another little random track. So I was just browsing through presets, and this is one of the tracks that I ended up using. Or wait, hang on a second. Actually, no, I was wrong. We already talked about this. Apparently, in my Studio One 6 update, whenever I transform a track back to a different place or a previous version of it, like from MIDI to audio again, it shoots it back to the bottom. It did the same with the bass guitar. But that's really dumb. I don't know what the heck is going on with Presonus' default settings because I did not ask for that. So that's really dumb, actually. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on. That is everything. I think I walked through all of the tracks that is happening on this remake that it did, although I'm feeling like I'm missing something. Did I forget to mention something? Let me make sure. No, I think I covered it all. So there you go, my friend. If you want to dive deeper, and I am going to go ahead and play this song from start to finish so you can get the satisfaction of hearing this entire remake at the end. Before I do, though, I want to let you know, if you are trying to get better at recording and production and mixing and all of that good stuff, and you are an indie producer or musician, then go download my free guide, The 7 Steps to a Killer Indie Song. This is going to give you the framework and an understanding of how to actually create songs, how to write them, produce them, record them, all of that jazz from start to finish, and put them out so that the world can hear the art you are creating. Link is in the description. Be sure to check it out before you head out. Thank you so much for watching, my friend. I'll see you in the next one.